Okay, and we're on. So, hi everyone. I'm Olivia Campos from New Scene TV, and today I'm joined with the amazing and talented Ellen Anderson. How are you doing today?
I am doing so great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. I'm so glad that you're doing great. Well, first off, I just want to say a huge congrats on the release of your new EP today titled Unbirthday. Of course. I just want to say it's absolutely amazing, and I've been listening to it nonstop on repeat. I absolutely love every single song, and I think fan fiction has to be my favorite.
That just made my heart so happy. Oh my gosh. It literally started off as the one. Well, we'll get into that later, I guess. But that has become my favorite one on the EP, undoubtedly. And it was so not the one I anticipated being like my heart song. It's yay.
Definitely. No, you can tell you put your heart and soul into that one. I absolutely love it. But I'm just super curious. So, when did you first realize that you wanted to, get into singing and acting?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I grew up in a small beach town in Alabama. It's like Gulf Shores, which now more people have heard of. But it's not necessarily a performing type of community or city that thrives on the arts. But my parents are both musicians, so they were singing constantly at various events and different shows and concerts. They traveled the world for 10 years with a group called the New Christy Minstrels. They were like a folk Americana pop group. So when I was 2 years old, they were singing on stage, and I ran up to steal the microphone from them and sing "You Are My Sunshine" to thousands of people. And it just completely changed my world. So growing up, I was homeschooled, but it didn't start off that way. I went to school for 4 months, was horrendously bullied, and that's a crazy story. But after that, my parents, because I was homeschooled, they wanted to find different ways to get me out there and to meet people and to socialize. So we tried sports and that failed. We tried gymnastics, and I loved the performance aspect, but not so much the athletic aspect. Um, and then finally we stumbled upon theater. And I really felt comfortable there. I was about like 7 years old and felt completely in my comfort zone. But also pushed. And that just was something that it was the only thing that I told my parents I want to do it again. So then, of course, came along musical theater, and I was like, wait, I can put music and acting together. That's kind of crazy. So the two just merged organically, and I'm very fortunate to have fallen in love with what I do at such an early age. I know that's rare, so I'm grateful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like literally right when you were born, like you were meant to be a star. Like singing and acting was just meant for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Like as you were saying, you were born in like a small beach town, Alabama. So I'm just super curious. I know you moved to LA to pursue your dreams and singing and acting in 2016. So how was that transition going from, a small town to big, huge, sunny LA?
It was definitely a big transition. I think what made it work so well was two things. One, that I felt like I kind of had started easing into it when I was around 13, 14 years old, because Atlanta is like a 6 hour commute from my hometown. So that's where I got my first agent. So I was signed at the age of 13, and I drove back and forth like 2 to 3 times a week for auditions. So it was like, okay, so I constantly had to like go to the big city of Atlanta, which is definitely a very like thriving city. Very, very busy. It's actually a little more stressful than LA. Believe it or not, it's like kind of stressful. And so I like kind of got my taste there. And then at 17, I was flying back and forth to Miami because I was doing professional theater, and I was also doing like an East Coast tour with my vocal coach at the time with her band. So I felt like there was a smooth transition from small town to big city. So when it came time for the move, it just worked because I'm such a fast paced person.
Mhm.
So I finally felt like I was in a city that understood my pace, and
Like
it
you
understood.
belonged, yeah.
I totally belonged
Mhm.
there. Whereas like here, I constantly feel like I am like on a drug of some sort. I'm like, let's go, let's go. And everyone's like, geez, we serve. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like you like the upbeatness and constantly moving around, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing though. So obviously not only are you an amazing actress and like you can do stage and everything, but you're an incredible singer. So I'm just super curious. I know you in 2016 you released your original full-length album, Perspective, which is absolutely amazing. When creating and working on an album, what is that process like? Like what is your creative process into all of that?
I love that question so much. seriously, you guys ask great questions, by the way.
Oh,
Let
thank
me,
you.
Kelly, I love your questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was my process is it's similar to some and it's different than some as well. I love it's always different, and I like that. The start of Perspective was really cool because that followed my being on American Idol season 14. So after I made it through the Hollywood week and eventually got cut, I ended up meeting with the record label that became the distributor for Perspective. And whenever I met with them, they had asked if I wanted to come up with an EP, and I said I'd rather do a full-length album because I had so much that I had been writing and building over the
Mhm.
years, and it just all came to me there. So I had almost just this journal of different songs, and I really put it together and realized that it was such a wide variety of different styles. So that's why I call it a perspective, because it kind of sings from so many different perspectives. So that album was mostly self-written. There's about 2 songs on there that are co-writes too, which is cool. And then there's one mashup cover that I came up with. So that was very cool. We spent about a week and a half at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, and while I knew what I was going in there to do, it felt like every day we were almost creating the song from scratch, because we like really came up with from start of the day to finish what we wanted that song to sound like.
That's
Um,
amazing, though.
yeah, it was such a cool week. It was really neat. So yeah, that I felt like was a very hands-on and a very intuitive process, because like in that moment in the studio is kind of when the songs would fully come to life. So that one was more hands-on, I think, than even this one, which was a little more strategized with the CP.
Yeah, but that's amazing though. And then how I like how you said like perspective kind of hit like tons of different, little areas there in songs. So how would you describe the music that you typically create?
I love this question too. I finally found my exact sound and what my genre is through the Unbirthday EP, because even when I did American Idol, I'll never forget Harry Connick Jr. being like, well, what style are you? And I was transparent with him. I said, look, they of course they didn't air this, but I'm like, I don't know. I kind of love. I mean, I love pop. I love rock. I love a little bit of jazz and classical. I kind of like to infuse it all. Like I love to mix indie with mainstream. I'm such an eclectic singer, and my style and taste and preferences are so
Yeah, that's what
eclectic.
makes you so unique.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So merging that was so hard. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't know what to do. And even through Perspective, I think I was figuring it out so
Yeah.
much. And with this EP, we figured out, we call it Powerhouse Dream Pop. And because the dream pop comes from the fact that it's so atmospheric and it has that electronica, like kind of a dark electronica vibe to it.
I know, I was gonna say I can definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but then we go hard on some of the like. There's some parts of it that's more powerhousey and like definitely like got some rock elements and like some hard, like just like pop rock. So that's where the powerhouse before dream pop comes in. So powerhouse dream pop is what we have classified as my genre, and I've never felt more understood. So
No, definitely. That's a perfect title for everything. And then speaking of, your new 5-song EP came out today on birthday, as we said before. Can you tell me more about like the inspiration behind the songs and like why you decided to title it on birthday?
yes, that was crazy. I ended up, well, COVID happened, and as awful as it's been, and I'm so ready for us to get back to normal, and like start living again, because we just
Mhm.
have to. It was definitely a rebirth for me. Something had to die in order for this entire situation to happen. I had shows lined up. I had so many. We were going to be performing at the Hotel Cafe, at the Troubadour. We were talking to the Peppermint Club. We actually just booked with them. And we had like another 5 or 6 that were like in the process of being put on the books. And COVID happened, and immediately all production stopped. So any film and television shows that I was in the process of working on, those were completely scrapped, and everything was just done. It was just canceled. So I immediately hopped in the car and headed to visit my folks in the little beach town and figure out what was going on and stay in a pod with them inside. And I ended up one day, because my parents, thankfully my mom works for the city, so she works. So she was able to continue working, and my dad works. So I was able to, I was home most of the
Yeah,
time.
no,
um,
same.
and I was thinking, what in the world am I supposed to do?
I feel
So
you, yeah.
it was crazy. Like my whole world had shut down. So one day I threw myself a little tea party on the front lawn because a girl over in South Africa wanted to do a FaceTime photo shoot of all things. I'm like, sure, I'm bored. Let's do something.
You're like, I'm all for it.
I'm like, do anything. I can't. see anyone in person, so I might as well.
Yeah.
And I remember having so much fun. I woke up obnoxiously early in the morning and I made hot tea. I had little treats and I put it on the lawn. And I kind of was like, oh, a very merry unbirthday to me, thinking of that Alice in Wonderland scene. And
Yeah.
it's my favorite movie. It was my favorite Disney movie, especially
Mhm.
growing up. And just the ideas swam through my head. So after that little shoot on the lawn, I just stayed there for hours and I was thinking about this entire concept. And I got a hold of my manager and said, what do you think about the idea of dropping a song called On Birthday? And she's like, what do you think about dropping a project called On Birthday? And I was like, that's a great idea. So after that, after actually another few months of just sitting and really thinking it through, I ended up going back to California. I did a whole rebrand shoot and we started planning the entire EP. We got the sessions lined up but yeah, this whole thing was inspired by a day on my front lawn in my hometown having a tea
Oh,
party.
that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy little things like that, like big things come out of them. Like you never know, but that's absolutely amazing. And then I have to ask, what would be your favorite song off the EP if you could pick?
I love that too. You know, it's so I think that there's a reason for every song. Oh my gosh, they all have such meaning. I think the one that I play the most, that I just jam out to nonstop, is Xbox, because that entire concept was just so fun coming up with that whole, like, I just was moving and found a shoebox that had a bunch of random things in there that I'd collected over the years from all my ex-boyfriends. So that was like, oh, this is fun. So it's the one that I jam out to the most. I think that my heart is in fan fiction because it wasn't to begin with. It was something that I kind of wanted to avoid, but I knew it needed to be on the CP. And then it became like something that just is embedded in my soul. Um, for some reason though, the song that I just love is the title track, is Unbirthday. And I think it's because that one took me 5 years to write. And I was in love with it when I started it, but I knew I couldn't finish it
Mhm.
until I had lived a while in
Yeah.
LA, because that's like the underlying meaning behind it. So
Mhm.
I'd say that that one's my favorite personally.
Definitely. They're all amazing. Like I don't know if I could pick one, but they're all so great.
Thank
But
you.
of course, and then like you said, on Birthday would have to be your favorite. So the music video was absolutely stunning, I have to say. I loved everything about the colors, absolutely beautiful. So what was the inspiration behind the music video?
That was a fun art like thing to visually like come up
Mhm.
with.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Thank you. We shot that at the Sunset Estate in Los Angeles, the most beautiful mansion ever. And there was so much to do. There's so much of that mansion we still didn't even get to explore in that video. But what really, you know, the concept with the whole on birthday party thing happening, I remember telling my team, like my art director, I was like, I really want to have this mental wonderland party going on, because I am like your inner Tumblr princess
Yeah.
kids. Like, let's just like put that, like, let's put a Pinterest board in the video.
Like go
Uh,
big. Yeah.
the whole thing. And the reason I was so adamant on this Wonderland kind of like nod to that was because of the unbirthday concept, you know, and Alice in Wonderland, they're talking about how there's 364 unbirthdays that we have out of the year, but we choose to celebrate the one day that is a birthday that is dedicated to us because that was our birth. But for me, I felt the rebirth and more alive during those 364 days spent in 2020, really figuring myself out again, and almost just completely shifting. Um, I don't want to say fully changing because I think you're always a part of yourself, but it was definitely a big shift. So I wanted that to read on screen. So it kind of goes through this whimsical mental wonderland. And at the end, it's like a very odd, very obscure ending compared to where it starts, like so just kind of polished and
Mhm.
magical. But it's supposed to also symbolize a lot of my journey in LA and finding myself through this crazy career. And there's nothing stable about it. One day it's a high, one day it's a low, and
Mhm.
some days it's beautiful and some days it's catastrophic. And that just so authentically came to us through this video. There was nothing about it that we're like, that doesn't feel authentic to us. So we're really happy that it was visually appealing, but also really had a good meaning behind it that showed.
Definitely. And you can see that meaning for sure all throughout the music video. Like there's a storyline, it's beautifully told and absolutely amazing. But where can we listen to your new EP on birthday?
Everywhere. It's
Every
worldwide. It's everywhere. I'm so grateful for so many listeners overseas, which it feels like I have more overseas versus in the States, which is wild to me. So it's everywhere on Spotify. You can get it on Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're also selling vinyl records. We're taking pre-orders and it's going to
I
be on
love that, yeah.
a vinyl record. I'm so happy. So it can be streamed anywhere, and it can be purchased on like as a physical copy. So really, really pumped. And that's at my website.
That's amazing. Everyone at home, make sure to stream it. So I'm just gonna ask you now, like a couple just like fun questions. So, who would be your biggest music inspiration?
My biggest music inspiration, I think on a business level, Taylor Swift is. She just redefined what it means to be a female artist working out there, you know, in this crazy industry. She really just sets the level and expectations for self-love and self-respect. She sets that bar so high. And I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, I really need to respect what I do because this is my work and this is my craft. And I am proud of that. And I don't need that to be taken advantage of.
Mhm.
And then other people who just inspire me to no end. I love Lana Del Rey. I love
Oh,
Panic! At
yes.
the Disco. Dua Lipa, who to me is like an 80s star trapped in the
Yeah.
2000s. I'm like, how did we get you? It's so crazy. Yeah, love her so much. And the 1975 as well. Those are probably my like top influences. And Charlotte Lawrence, I don't want to leave her out. Charlotte Lawrence and Sia as well. Those are my
I
big.
definitely the 1975 was my first concert, so they always have my heart.
I'm
So
so jealous. Oh, I love
oh, I know once COVID is like ending, hopefully concerts will all be starting again. I know, fingers crossed.
so happy. They were supposed to come to Hangout Music Fest last year, and that's in my hometown. And I'm like, really? The year
Like it
that
had to happen. But speaking of that, if you could collaborate with any artist on a song, who would you pick?
so many.
I
But you know, my constant dream, I've always wanted to work with Sia. I think that she is just otherworldly. It doesn't matter what she does, anything she touches turns to gold. I think that it's funny how she's gone so mainstream because to me she's not a mainstream artist. She is so unique. Um, I've always wanted to go on tour with her, let alone do a song with her. So that's a dream of mine for sure.
that's an amazing pick. She's incredibly talented. And then who do you enjoy or what do you enjoy most about being a music artist?
I love that it changes every day. I love that every day is something different. I think that as much as I'm such an unstructured person, I definitely like to have a certain amount of structure and stability in my life, but I love that there's no room for complacency with it. And I love the people that I get to meet and that get to just help me to be better at what I do.
Definitely, that's amazing. And then what advice would you give to a young artist who's trying to make it in this industry? You know, being like a young, successful singer, like what would be your piece of advice to them?
I would tell them to first get an amazing lawyer, and to never be afraid to ask for a contract because there's nothing wrong with that. And it's going to save them a lot of heartache and a lot of headache in the end. That is something that is worth every investment. And to also really, truly not be afraid of that investment and don't be afraid to ask them to work with you. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, obviously it's a lot of money, but not all the time. There's actually a lot of things that you can do, even that your state will cover legally for you that most people don't know.
Mhm.
You just have to do the research and to get as much experience as you can when you can, as early as you can. Start writing with other people. Look up copywriting and publishing and what it means and why it is so important to understand those things so that when you're going into sessions, you know exactly what you're getting into. And to not let rejection remotely have a say in how much you want to do this because you're going to get rejected every single day. You're going to be told no 100,000 times versus the one time you're told yes, and or the few times you're told yes. And that is great because every no is just taking you to that very firm yes. So just don't give up. And if it's what you really want to do, then you're not going to question it.
Definitely. I love that. Like when a door closes, it will always lead to another. But that's amazing. That's great advice. And then any upcoming projects we should be on the lookout for?
Well, we're gonna be doing this EP for the year, but we have 3 more videos in the works for the
Amazing.
EP. We want
Mhm.
to keep the EP alive.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
we just realized that there's so, after doing the Unbirthday music video and the Sweet 16 video, we realized just how much of a story this tells. So we want to keep bringing the visual to it, since there's
Definitely.
already the ear, there's the listening aspect of it with the EP itself.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep it alive. And then we're going to hit festivals, and come 2022 spring summer, we're definitely going to hit a tour, like an international tour. So that's the plan.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait for that. Like, fingers crossed. I want everything to go away. Like,
I know. I'm like, please
yeah,
go away.
I know. And then lastly, where can we find you to keep up with your journey?
Find me everywhere. I'm mainly on Instagram. So that's just at my name, Glennellen, Glennellen. I tell you, people, if you just look up that first name, that 10-letter crazy name, you're gonna find me.
It'll pop up, yeah.
Yeah, Instagram is my favorite. YouTube, obviously, because now I'm doing daily vlogs. So, or
I
not
saw
daily.
that, yeah.
Yeah, so
Mm,
weekly vlogs every Monday, which will be great. It's definitely going to be more steady now that the EP's out.
mhm.
Very happy. So yeah, those are the two. The only one I don't have is Twitter. I never understood it. I wasn't cool.
Same
I
exact way, same. I have a Twitter, but I think I have like 2 followers.
was
But I
like,
feel
I
that.
don't understand it. I don't get
Me
it.
too. No, same. And I just know I'd probably embarrass myself with the tweets that I make, so I don't even bother.
I, I like tried it for a minute, and I probably tweeted twice in all 6 years that I had it, and was like, why do I have this? So I deleted it.
I feel that. Well, thank you so much, Glennellen, for joining us today. And you guys at home, make sure to stream Unbirthday. It's an amazing piece, and you all love it. And thank you so much for listening and watching. And you can keep up with all the latest news and interviews right here at New Scene TV. But yeah, thank you so much, Glennellen.
Olivia, thank you so much. You guys are great.
Thank you. Let me stop recording.